Hey.
Hello, hello. Hello, Chuck.
So,
Guys, it says we're live in 5 minutes.
okay.
And congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have to say, I planned this joke, right? That we all were supposed to
Hey
be
guys,
black tie.
you are live now.
We're live now.
Okay, guys. Clearly, you didn't get the memo. You didn't get the memo, guys. It was supposed to be black tie and very expensive champagne. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to the live Bitterroot panel. And I just got to say, bravo. Let's all toast to my favorite team, David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Greene. Congratulations for taking home the Ringo last night for Best Series, and an extra special bravo to Sanford for winning the Best Artist Ringo Award. Guys, cheers.
Chaim and Mazel Tov.
You said, I thought you said black shirt. We do have that.
You know what? Okay, fair
We got
enough.
that covered.
I'm
Black
so
shirt.
happy. I'm so happy about that. For those of you just joining, I'm Shelley Bond, and I have the honor of being the current editor of Bitterroot. And working with this team is absolutely incredible, except when they disregard the memo. We did talk about sequins. We talked about everybody wearing some kind of hair accessory. David, I thought you were going to bring the tiara. Chuck, there was something mentioned about satin bows. Sanford, come on, you guys. Oh, wait, there we go. Well, anyway, thank you for joining us today. For everybody out there at Virtual Baltimore Comic-Con, welcome. And I hope within the next 50 minutes, we can share a little bit about the inner workings of the incredible series Bitterroot by my wonderful team. Wanted to actually get started just by explaining to people who might not be familiar with Bitterroot what the series is about. And I'm going to toss it right to David F. Walker because he summarizes this series like nobody's business. Over to you, David.
Oh, it's Sunday. Sunday is not summarizing day for me, so I'm not used to it. Bitterroot is set against the backdrop of the Harlem Renaissance, and it chronicles the Sangrier family, who are a family of monster hunters that specialize in tracking down and either curing or killing a special breed of monster who are people who have been transformed by hate and intolerance into demonic creatures. How's that? Is that close?
That was pretty good. I could edit it a little bit, but we'll talk after this live panel.
Always working.
Right?
Always working.
I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was everybody watching this. This is what it's like. She corrects your grammar and everything. It's just so.
I always have a red pen nearby. Not going to lie.
That's not even a red pen. That's a red Sharpie. That's when you get bad grades. Like I'm traumatized when I see those red Sharpies.
One of each. I've got one of each. Sanford, I want to ask you this question. Who is your favorite character in Bitterroot? Who do you really connect with and why?
Which one is my favorite child, I guess. I honestly, this is going to be a little off the cuff, I think. I think Uncle Enoch, after designing him and getting the story from Chuck and David, as we see how he's honestly is the most important character in terms of how the family deals with this fight. He's the linchpin of it. I mean, Ma Etta obviously is the matriarch, but I think he understands, or he has an understanding of things that most of the family aren't really in tune to. And he's the gateway into them getting to the place where they are able to have this fight to some degree on equal footing, because the fight is beyond just the physical, right?
Now, I have to interject by holding up a page. It's a spoiler, but
Mm.
Uncle Enoch also has some secret weapons. Can you tell everybody a little bit about his, I want to say pets, but they're much more than that.
Yeah, well, without being too much of a spoiler, we thought it would be a cool idea to the story has a backdrop that has a lot of heavy content, and we thought we needed to have some sense of some element that allows the viewers to feel like, you know, not everything that these guys come across is just evil or dark. And the idea of doing something like some type of creature that kind of gives us a glimmer of something that is greater than the dark elements that's involved. I don't know what that is, but that's not one of them. It's I don't know what that is actually, but yeah, that, you know, so we thought it would be really cool. And just truth be told, we knew that we wanted to also reach a broader audience. We thought cute critters would be something that would be great to introduce, so that female readers can connect with it. I think they connect in broad strokes anyway, but I think something specific like that just gives, you know, a unique element to the story that we're telling.
Actually, we just got a message from someone who asked if they should stop viewing if they haven't read volume 2. The answer
Yeah.
is absolutely not. Oh God, no, do not leave.
No.
We are going to have so much fun in this hour. Please. We will give away semi-spoilers. And I promise you that I'll tell you to go la, 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 if there's something big that's going to be revealed. Actually, which makes me want to go right over to Chuck, because Chuck is the shy one of the group. As you can see, it's certainly not David.
I don't know what I am with the group.
But
I'm
you
trying
are the
I'm
shy
trying to
one.
figure out what David has in his hands. It's disturbing, and at the same
It's
time
bloody.
it's intriguing.
This is underwear.
It's bloody.
Oh God,
Chuck,
bloody
I
sock.
want to know which character Chuck connects with most of all and why.
I mean, honestly, I kind of bounce around a lot. Honestly, in the beginning, I think it was mostly Cullen. You know, he just can't seem to quite win and quite get to where he wants to be in the story. You know, where he think he's trying to do good, but he keeps falling into the surroundings and the issues around his world and the things he wants to do in life. Later on, I was kind of surprised at how fans were really drawn to Berg a lot, and I really, I kind of had fun with them as they enjoyed loving that character so much, because I wasn't really expecting Berg to be as popular as he has become. So, you know, it's kind of combination of Cullen and Berg mixed together, you know. But
I have one word for that.
It's a ding.
Indubitably.
yeah,
Indubitably. I love Berg as well. And in fact, one of the things that I found really enriching about the series is that you get so many extra pieces to the puzzle in the Red Summer Special, which, by the way, for those of you listening, just to summarize, so Bitterroot launched a few years ago, and the first trade that came out collected the first 5 issues. It was called Family Business. Our second trade, which is a little bit thicker and twice as beautiful and has this great Eisner logo down here, by the way, also includes the wonderful Red Summer Special, which was a series of short stories by a host of A-lister artists. And it gave lots of little kernels of backstory to each of the main characters. And I quite liked what we found out about Berg when he was a youngster. Anybody want to follow up with a little bit more information about the Red Summer Special?
Sure. You know, the Red Summer Special was just part of it was we were trying to pace ourselves in a way that didn't knock us out in terms of putting out, the issues of Bitterroot. And we knew there was going to be a bit of time between the first arc and the second arc. So we decided to do this collection that in a lot of ways was reminiscent of the summer specials, the summer annuals that would come out when I was a kid growing up reading comics in the 70s and 80s, and I always seemed to gravitate towards those in some way. Probably because there was more pages and it was always a little bit offbeat. It was never quite right in the continuity of whatever series you might have picked up, and I just always felt like, that was, and they usually came out in the summer, and it was just like always this exciting time, because when the first one would show up, it would, on the stands, they were like 75 cents, while other comics were like 35 cents, which is dating me, right? But
whoa, in a big way.
so that was part of it, and just an opportunity, like, when you're writing comics and world building, there's a lot of stuff that sort of you never get around to putting into the book for one reason or another. Maybe it's a little scene or a bigger scene, and I thought it would just be kind of interesting to give these little snippets of different characters and pivotal moments in their lives, and knowing that we might never go deeper than these particular moments, but that it would say a whole lot about these characters.
Right.
And absolutely.
Can I share something really quick about
Sure.
that? I think annuals that was my introduction into comics, actually. I mean, the 3-packs. I guess I'm dating my age too. When you saw the spinner rack and it had the 3 comics in a pack. But I think the biggest thing for me was seeing those annuals, because it was a, all-encompassing story for the most part, and you kind of got a glimpse of the entire world. Like Marvel's superheroes, you would see kind of like this complete story that introduces you to not only the characters but the world itself. So when we came up with the idea about doing the Red Summer Special, it really got me excited, because it was that same opportunity that we can just introduce the audience and fans to our entire world, and still keep moving forward. So it was just something that I think that hopefully we can continue to do.
And it's written and laid out in a way where you can jump in on the Red Summer Special even before you read Bitterroot or after you read Bitterroot, because characters like Berg and Blink and Dr. Sylvester, they have a lot of aha moments about why they are the way they are in the books. So that's a nice little, like David said, like added to the whole universe of what's going on in Bitterroot behind the scenes. So definitely pick up that if you haven't read the book before, or if you've already read the books. It's definitely something you can enjoy, before or after you read the books. And it's also included in volume 2, right, Shelley?
It is.
Right.
And in fact, it's also worth noting that it's available digitally, and that's another great way. It's often 99 cents on Comixology, so definitely check it out. It's a great entryway in, and I can guarantee you, once you get even just a glimpse of these characters, you're hooked. You're hooked for life. I mean, this is a family drama unlike any other, and for me at least, what it does so beautifully, it entertains, it shocks you a little bit, but it really educates you while you're not looking. It's so rich with information, not just in the story and art. And Sanford, I gotta say, the fact that you won Best Artist last night, I was dancing around my house in this dress and in combat boots. And I wasn't drinking champagne all night, but I can't wait to open this in your honor.
I actually have a package for you if you're interested in bourbon.
Is it artwork or is it champagne?
No, it's bourbon.
Oh,
it's not artwork. I guess
okay.
it can be considered art if you think about it in a certain way.
Make it 2, bourbon. Take it 2.
It's yeah, and it comes with a bloody bunny.
What is going on?
Oh,
David?
no,
What's going
that
on?
I don't think I want in my house. Thank you. I mean, I can appreciate it from a distance,
Bloody
David.
bunny, bloody bunny. I tell you what. Yeah, thank you, Shelley, for that. Yeah, it was definitely a humbling and and an honor to have received that award. In the category, and the artists that were in the category were legends. Colleen Doran. We chatted for a quick moment in the green room, quote unquote green
Oh,
room.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was just cool just to be able to know that I admired her work when I was in high school.
Wow, you're really aging her now.
Yeah,
Just
to
kidding.
some degree.
Just kidding.
No, she's incredible, and just the other creators that were in the category, and this is one of those things where I'll share this story. I was up here, and Leslie, my wife, was downstairs trying to film it on TV, and she yells. I think downstairs, it's like a few seconds ahead of what I got up here. So she was yelling downstairs before I knew, before they announced it up here, right? So it was kind of like she's yelling it, and I'm like, oh, I guess that meant something
Good
good.
news.
Good news. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. It's pretty awesome.
And guys, to get the Ringo for the best series also, I mean, how fantastic, especially now, right? I mean, we don't want to spend too much time talking about the political climate and the vitriol, but what's so wonderful about Bitterroot is it really holds up the mirror. I mean, comment a little bit on that, David.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because when we were first starting out, before the first issue would come out, we were, talking about stuff like, oh man, I how are people going to respond to this? What if they don't like it? What if this is too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was the one who kind of kept saying, well, who cares? I don't care if it's too much.
Yeah, he got super militant with it, and we were like, yep.
How shocking.
But I always come back to the fact that with all the stuff that I've enjoyed, even since I was a kid, the things that I seem to enjoy the most were, whether it was music or film or comics, was something where I sensed there was a little bit more going on. And growing up when I did before the internet, it wasn't always that easy to do research, but you would hear an album or a song by someone, and it'd be kind of like, oh, I think there's something political going on here, or you'd watch a horror movie and there's some sort of underlying theme. And so I just really love that. And I've always wanted to do as much of that as possible in the work that I do. And I feel like when you're making comics, it should be layered, and there should be stuff that's just, the most important layer is the entertainment layer. And you want to engage people and entertain them and affect them emotionally. But right after that, you want that intellectual engagement. And it's not to say that you can't have stuff that is just a little bit more lighthearted, because that's great too. It's just, I just personally don't have that much interest in creating that. And I'm sort of at a point now where it's like, if I want something dumbed down, I'll just watch the news, So.
Exactly. Yes. Agree with you there. I have to say that we're getting great comments. Thank you so much for everybody who's been chiming in. And we have a special guest here. Our colorist, Sophie Dodgson, wants to know, is that the Monty Python bunny? Sophie's joined us, right?
Yes.
How hilarious is Sophie?
Sophie, it's got to be midnight for you. Close to it.
It's something like that. Sanford, we've got to talk about some of the unsung heroes in Bitterroot. And Sophie has been not only a tremendous addition to the Bitterroot team, which also consists of Clayton Cowles, who's our letterer, but I want you to tell everybody a little bit about how you found Sophie and just what she's brought to the series.
It was a cold Winter's Night, and I was
Wait, I
trying
need to turn up the music. Let me turn up the music better. Pull out my little violin. Go ahead.
and
Continue.
we were in flux trying to figure out where we were going to go next with colorist duties, and I put the word out because I think what we were trying to do, in all seriousness, we were trying to be a little intentional to bring some opportunities to diverse creators, artists of color, female artists, and the like. And I put the word out, I think on Twitter or something like that, looking for female colorists, you know, a little specific. And the response was tremendous. Um, and for some reason, I think Sophie may have reached out to, as we have visual aid in the background here. It's pretty awesome stuff.
A
But
woman of many talents. Editing. You have to wear many hats,
many
including like display person.
yes. Oh, beautiful stuff. And Sophie, interesting enough, she reached out to me on Instagram. I think that's the first time we actually had contact. And when she reached out, she said, "Hey, fan of what you guys do. I saw that you had interest in finding female colorists. I thought I would just throw my name in the hat." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And this was, literally, I was about to make a decision to show these guys a few other colorists, and she chimed in and she showed me her work. And I think what the biggest thing was, we actually had a quick conversation, I think a few days afterwards, and there was just her presence about her that really made the difference for me, because I mean, all the colorists were great, they were all talented, but she was talented, and she just had this personality that I thought would be great. She'd be a tremendous part of the team. And long story short, she joined, and she's gonna have to. There's no way we're letting this one go. She's pretty awesome. So
Actually, I thought just the other day you said, "How can we get rid of her? That she's getting on your nerves."
let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's not
Just
put out
kidding.
that false fake news.
I know.
Fake news.
I know. I'm such a troublemaker. I'm sorry.
I know
will
what you're
say-
trying to do. I know what you're trying to do, Shelley. You're trying to find a way to give her more time to work on your other projects.
Oh, perhaps yes. I think you're correct there. I have to say that I think Sophie should win an award for best newcomer to comics, because she's really only been in comics for the past year. I believe she's a costume designer.
Yeah.
And that's where she's had most of her skills on display.
Yeah.
And I think with the pandemic, theaters have gone dark, and I think she was looking for more comics work. And we are so lucky that she's a part of our team. She's just incredible.
Yep.
I want to give a shout out for some of the back matter. And I had Shonda Suk, thank you so much for writing into us. She says props to everybody. And also, she said that the back matter in the trade is great. And a big part of that is because of John Jennings. John actually not only edits and curates the Bitter Truth's essays, but he's also an artist and writer in his own right. And David, why don't you share with everybody how John came to contribute and be such an important part of the Bitterroot team?
Well, a lot of it goes back to the comic Bitch Planet that Kelly Sue DeConnick and Valentine Delando do, and their back matter is tremendous, and that's curated by Lauren McCubbin, if I remember correctly. And so I just felt like we should try to do that, because I knew that we were tackling something really heavy in terms of the story that we were doing, but there was also just an opportunity to teach people about stuff, whether it was the Harlem Renaissance or other aspects of history. And so I just said to Chuck and Sanford, I was like, let's do some essays in the back, and and we'll sucker John Jennings into doing it. So all the hard work is on him. And it's just sort of been great, because amongst other things, a lot of the essays that we've had are from people that I know, either through comics or through my work in teaching. And we just got an essay that will be in issue number 11. So we got it, in a reasonable time because we're still working on 11. But it was one of the best that we've had. And it was, that's by Sean Taylor. But we've had just some amazing contributors to that. And I think, Chuck, Sanford, and I, all three of us have either worked or continue to work in education as well. So there's I think there's a little bit of that. It's I like I said, I like to be educated. You know what else I like to do though? I like to hug Chuck, and I'm sending
Uh-oh. He looks
hug.
nervous.
You see the look of
Okay.
Chuck.
the look of
It's unsafe to hug.
disdain.
Run for cover,
Socially-
Chuck.
So it's
Right.
still socially distant.
No, not gonna work.
Virtual hug.
Well, I'll share something
Bunny's
really
coming
quick
for you,
too. That's what Chuck really wants to hug. He wants to hug that frightening
A bloody mess.
a bloody bunny. But I think one of the things that that makes our book unique in that sense is, like what David said, is that we have the back matter. We have a unique, I guess it won't be a secret. I call it a secret weapon. It's not really a secret now if I say it, but I think having that back matter and having these educators from all over the country, the world, do these essays, it allows us to have a whole new audience. And we've had our book in classrooms in high schools and universities all over the country. Just recently, we had an educator that teaches at I forgot which Morgan State in Baltimore. Brother by the name of Jason Johnson, who's a MSNBC news contributor. As a matter of fact, he had our book on display one evening while he was giving commentary, and that was pretty awesome. And he reached out and said, "Yeah, we're using your book as curriculum for his class," which I thought was pretty awesome. So yeah, we get those kind of messages and emails from all the time, all over the country. So it's pretty awesome to know that we have that avenue as well.
I mean, in everything that David and I and Sanford do, there's always that element of education in our work. And in the beginning, when David and John mentioned they wanted to do the back matter in the back of the book, I was really kind of taken aback because I'm such a huge admirer of John Jennings and what he does, and the fact that he wanted to he was so excited about doing this for us and working for us. It really validated what we're doing really matters. That someone that really saw our work and really wants to put it out to the world and wants to care about educating people and saw the value in our work. So that was having him on board was just icing on the cake. I mean, it was just amazing, really having him on board.
I mean, he honestly was pretty adamant once he heard the premise of our story. He was like, "Yeah, let me know what can I do? I'll do it, whatever you want." So, like Chuck said, just to see that he was advocating before we even put pen to paper was a pretty great start.
Yeah, it's clear that the fans agree that the book is only a complete package when you get the Bitter Truths essays in the back. And that's such a great thing. It's not only giving readers more for their money, but it's just that extra level of empowerment. Because as we've all discussed, I think we're all comics purists. We've all loved comics for many, many years. And I think the best comics work on so many levels to entertain and educate and empower. And it's so important for us from our generation to continue paying it forward for the next generation. I want to actually take a step to the side and talk a little bit about the art and the costume design and how steampunk actually figures into the Bitterroot mythos. Can you give us a little bit of the backstory there, Sanford? Because that's pretty huge. That's what makes a comic set in the Harlem Renaissance in 1924. That's what makes it, I think, even that much richer and unexpected.
Truth be told, I think the initial idea, when Chuck presented that time period, I started thinking about how that time period is already kind of naturally magical and has that element of the steampunk element to some degree in the fashion,
Mm-hmm.
which, truth be told, I started doing some research on it early on just to see if there was anything out there that kind of resembled what I was thinking. And it wasn't a whole lot, which I was very surprised. But truth be told, there's a very committed fan base of African American cosplay, steampunk cosplay.
Definitely.
That I found that, and I thought that was just very intriguing, and it just kind of was a natural connection there. Once I saw that, it was just kind of seamless to go in that direction. So it wasn't anything more than just doing a little bit of research on that and seeing how it just was a natural fit. And to some degree, I'm kind of glad that there wasn't a whole lot out there, because we can really truly do something that is authentic, coming from our story.
And that's what I love about it. That's when I think you take comics to the next level. And that's why I celebrate the art form so much. Now, Chuck, I got to ask you, was that a welcome addition to your original concept when Sanford came in and said, we're going to add some steampunk accessories?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, when I sent him a bunch of character designs and ideas for the book, and he came back with all this real sleek steampunk, concept for 1920s. I mean, it was really amazing. I mean, it was exactly what we've been kind of bouncing the ideas around about what we wanted, and when he showed me the designs, it just really blew me away. I mean, it was really amazing.
Now I'm admiring some of the martial arts weapons you have behind you. You're a big fan of martial arts, am I right?
Yeah, Kung Fu, Bruce Lee, a lot of anime stuff. Yeah, huge fan. Yeah.
And does that factor into the direction you like to take the characters and the stories in Bitterroot?
It did somewhat. I mean, they're very the family is very educated and basically well traveled. So they picked up different kinds of techniques and fighting techniques throughout the book. I think David and I were talking a few days ago on a podcast about Maeda, about how she had this scene where she kind of just broke out and just started, kicking, I guess, butt in a sense, right? And people were asking, like, where'd that superpower come from? And me and David was like, there's no superpower. She's just well trained, and and as things get older, they get better. So she's just been trained and well conditioned, and when she had to take books out of powers or her abilities or her skills, she just did so.
A lot of pent up frustration. She just let them have it after that.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, she's my favorite character, and not just because she's about 5'2". She is one tough woman, and I think Sanford told me that she sort of resembles, is it your grandmother, who you said was diminutive but scared the heck out of you growing up?
I think on some level she's everyone's grandmother in many communities. Short but still big in personality and conviction.
Yes, agency.
Yeah,
and spirit.
In spirit. So yeah, she she definitely reminds me of my grandmother, but I think there's some connections to all of us who have the matriarchs in our families.
I had an aunt, Angel, that was her name. That was the kind of where Miss Etta came from in my mind. And Sanford had someone too, like you mentioned. But mine was Aunt Anjanora, that small old lady that kind of demanded respect in a sense in the house.
I look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg like that as well. There's something about women that are strong and they take prisoners and they take no shit. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear, but that's just the way it is. One of the things I really do love about the series, so it's about a family, and it centers on the two cousins, mostly Blink and Cullen, but you've brought in some other families around Harlem. So we don't just have the Sangaré family, but we have other families. David, can you talk a little bit about that? How we brought in some other sparring partners that actually have similar problems right now in the series.
I think a lot of it was just this idea that if there was monsters that were people, human beings were transformed into monsters by way of their prejudices and their intolerance. It just seemed like there would have to be more than one family that would sort of be in on this, right? And and that, but then to take it one step further, it was like, well, every ethnicity, every culture has their mythology. And I think even Chuck and I were talking about that early on, and it was like, um, everybody has their creation myths, and everybody has their their version of the devil. And so we just sort of thought, well, at some point we should hint at the fact that there's other families that do this. And when the Red Summer special came up, it was an opportunity to make at least a minor introduction. And then we sort of talked about it, and we were like, well, what if the families don't get along? What if there's this sort of, not even a rivalry, but there's like even prejudices or whatever within these different cultures and these different families, and maybe that's part of the reason why no one has ever been that effective in fighting these creatures. And I think we see that a lot in present day, where it's like, you'll have 3 or 4 different groups with similar ideologies, but they're not the same, so they can't even agree how to go after the problem. It's
and sometimes make it worse.
Yeah, and of course the problem is that you don't. In comics, you're limited to how much you can show and tell per issue, per story. So it was like, well, we don't have to have these characters, like, they don't have to have their own issues or their own miniseries, but we just introduce them and let them know. And now it's sort of like, I kind of find myself thinking, okay, is there an opportunity to show them more, or what does this world look like as it gets bigger? And that's it wasn't my intention to create something that was so big and so vast initially, but I think that when you start to do world building as a storyteller, there's if you're really putting in the work, you create these little things that you can go down these tangents. And it's funny, like on a nerd level, I've been watching the original Star Trek series on Netflix recently.
I would have never guessed that you were a nerd, by the way, but please continue.
He just said nerd level. He's not a nerd per se. He just knows to
Oh, he's a nerd. Oh, but make no mistake, he's a nerd. Okay.
The Wrath of Khan is arguably the best of the Star Trek movies, and it came from an episode of the original series. But as I'm watching the original series again for the first time in ages, it seems like almost every other episode, it's like, oh yeah, they could have done a movie about this. Oh yeah, how come they didn't do a movie about that? Oh, I would have rather, and it was like, and there's just this long list. And I realized, oh, that's because whether or not I don't think they were intentionally doing it per se, but there's some incredible world building that went on in Star Trek. And now we see it through not just the spin-off shows like Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, but there's always these spin-offs. Now there's the new animated show, which is a comedy. And it's like, every character in every world that creators build you should the world you've built should be so good that you can
Yes.
just take even a minor supporting character and tell their story. And I know she's definitely fallen out of favor with a lot of people, for some of the statements she's made recently. But in the Harry Potter books, there's I can't think of a single character who I wouldn't want to read an entire book about them. I'd love to read a
Right.
Neville Longbottom book. I'd love to read
And
sort of a solo adventure thing.
And I think it's just about connection. I think that great characters come about when you have very talented writers and artists, and you have a story that needs to be told right now, a story that's urgent. And I do think that's why Bitterroot is successful in the 21st century, especially in 2020, because let's face it, what's going on outside of our doors in the world is pretty heinous. And the parallels that you guys can make are quite telling.
Well, I think, truth be told, that's a lot of why. Well, that is why Bitterroot was conceived. 2016, the elections. After the elections, there was a lot of soul searching, especially in the Black and Brown community and all over, really. And but I think even more specifically in the creative community, just there was a lot of uh,
Vitriol.
strife, vitriol, strife, levels of just again
Fear
just
and
trying to
uncertainty.
uncertainty. You just didn't understand. We were trying to figure out how can we express this in a way that's going to truly bring about some type of not necessarily sea change, but something that will bring awareness on a level that hadn't really been addressed in our field, right? And in a long time, I should say, because comics has always been, I would say, in the forefront of social and political issues. Superman was conceived because of that, right? Captain America. We can keep going, but we hadn't had anything recently that I can tell, and it definitely didn't have a lot coming from the Black and Brown creators, I think, and we just saw a need. Just being very candid, our book is probably the first book over at Image with all Black creators, in over 20 years. That's a problem, and we didn't necessarily wanted to address that, but we wanted to still make that statement without having to make it right. And we had bigger ambitions in a sense of just talking about the overall struggle, the overall fight, if you will, that we have to endure on a day in and day out basis. But that's honestly where it all started, was there. And we're very fortunate and blessed to have to be able to be kind of on the forefront, if you will, of something that we think is hopefully has opened some doors. There's other creators and other stories out there now. Not saying that we're the ones to open the door, but I do believe that it has brought some attention, and we try our best. I know David is a big advocate for other creators of color, and he speaks about a lot of projects out there. I try to. I know Chuck has done other projects with other creators as well, of color, to try to just create this narrative that there's some unique voices out here and some unique talents that really need to be seen on a bigger level than just small independent level, if you will.
Now, can this dovetail into any news about the film? Because as many people know, Bitterroot has been in development with Ryan Coogler and Legendary Films. So is there anything you guys can share about the development?
Let's see, what can we share? Well, it's in development at Legendary.
Oops, it was going so well, and then I blew it.
No,
I'm so sorry.
You know, it's still moving forward, and our understanding is they have a screenwriter, and you know, the pandemic has slowed so much stuff down, and the film industry especially has, for the better part of this entire time, has come to a halt. But there's still regular check-ins. I do know that they've been talking to directors. They haven't, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't signed a director yet, because Ryan is attached just to produce, not to direct. And but Legendary is really committed to this, and I think that the success of the book now, with the Eisner win and the Ringo win, and just it's kind of blows my mind, honestly, because it seems like every day there's something new and positive. As the world is spinning in a negative way, there's a lot of positive stuff surrounding Bitter Root. And then I think even like Jordan Peele's films like Get Out, and Us, and now there's Lovecraft Country on HBO. There's this great documentary on Shudder called Black Noir, or is it Black or Horror Noir? And there's I think we're starting to see the beginning of a true renaissance of horror tales and monster tales within the Black community, that's set against the backdrop of the Black experience, of the diaspora here in the U.S. And we're just really fortunate that we are we're kind of at the right place at the right time. And I think
you guys started this wave. I really do. I'm so proud of what you've achieved. Even before I joined the team last year, I think you guys started this great new wave, and I'm thrilled to help it usher in more people. I wanted to actually mention a couple of quick messages that we got. Fortune Wesson says, as a Black Asian, it was sick to see both cultures in the story. So props to you guys about that. And we got another question from Jonda Suk. David and Chuck, what's the co-writing process like? Now, we only have 4 minutes, guys. So you want to take it? Can you sum it up real quickly? Chuck, why don't we start with you? First, you get a big hug. You get a big hug from David.
First, we hug first. No,
an hour.
Frontal hugs. You do full frontal hugs.
Full frontal hugs. There's a lot of phone calls back and forth. Sometimes I write a first draft, David will write a first draft, and David will wrap up with a final draft. And we FaceTime or Skype a lot and just bounce ideas off one another. And, that's kind of what we do. We kind of flow with it. We try not to get too bogged down, but we try to stay as structured as possible, where we do our outline first and then make the outline as detailed as possible, and then kind of flesh out the script from there and bounce off ideas and dialogue from back and forth. David, what your
Chuck is being so polite and nice, because the reality is I'm just a bully. I yell at him. I yell at Sanford. I don't yell at Shelley.
Actually, I'm the bully. Let's not make any mistakes here. I'm the bully of the group.
The red pin.
You have taken over, right?
The red pin madam.
Bullies are bad people. Let's not try to be bullies, people.
Small but mighty. Listen, we have to.
The red pin madam.
We have to do a quick wrap up, but before we do, I got one final question. It's really important, guys. What is the one album you put on that gets you away from the negativity, that makes you feel great, that makes you happy to be in comics, that lifts your spirits? Sanford.
Fight the Power by Public Enemy. So the exact opposite.
Okay. Hey, it works for you.
I'm joking. I don't. That's the last thing I would listen to mellow out. That does the opposite for me. No, honestly, I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of comic podcast, creator podcast, things of that nature. So
All right, Chuck.
I put classical on low and shuffle, basically. I just shuffle
Wow, I'm shocked, guys. I was not expecting this. David, the one go-to album that just lifts you up to new heights and keeps you moving forward.
That would be Fishbone's Truth and Soul. But I've been listening to a lot of John Coltrane lately. So.
All right. So, by the way, you guys, you're fired because the only answer to that question is what? Does anyone know?
London Calling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it could be.
I was going to say the Who.
No. Right now, I have to say, for me, it's the Clash Sandinista. Mm-hmm. But we can talk about that some other time at a much longer podcast.
I wanted to thank. We didn't talk about football.
Well, that we'll never talk about.
I promised you was going to give us a football question, but never mind.
I made no promise of the type. But I, in case anybody was wondering, I wasn't drinking champagne. I was drinking lemonade. But I am definitely sugared up. And I wanted to ask everybody to go around. Give our viewers your social media handles so that they know where to find you. And then I'll give a little bit of a wrap up of where people can find the next couple of Bitter Root books. David.
I'll start. I have a website, davidfwalker, all one word.com. And from there, you can find all the links to all my different social media handles. So just go to davidfwalker.com.
All right, Chuck.
For me, go to shortcomplex.com. All of my links, my Facebook, Twitter are on there.
And Sanford?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Sanford Greene.
And I'm Shelley Bond on Twitter at SXBond, Instagram SXBond Imprimatur, also on Facebook. I want to remind everybody that Bitter Root Volume 2, Rage and Redemption, which also includes the Red Summer Special, is available now. It's an absolutely stunning package. So thank you to the fine folks at Image, Deanna in particular, for doing such terrific production work. So it's available now. It's been on sale for 2 weeks. We would love for you to check it out. Volume 1 is going back to press, third printing. It is in stores on November 13th. And also the books are available on Comixology. And I just wanted to thank everybody, particularly this wonderful team. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Baltimore Comic-Con for the big win, Bitter Root, Best Series. Sanford Greene, cheers, Best Artist, long overdue. He's my favorite artist that I'm not married to. So bravo, everybody, and keep reading comics. Cheers.
We may need this Bitter Root in November 13th is when it's out. Yeah,
that's when the Volume 1 reprint is out.
Yeah, we might need that book more than ever.
I think you're right. I do. I think you're right. Actually, I thought they were going to be cutting us off, so we have a couple more seconds. If Chuck wants to add a little bit more. Chuck, I know you have a terrific book out now called On the Stump.
Right.
Tell the viewers a little bit about it.
On the Stump is basically about a world where politicians don't debate on the stump. They fight in these brutal, bloody matches on the stump. And the trade is out on November 3rd.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, the day of.
Yeah,
right?
November 4th, I think. I think the day after the election.
After the election, please, by all means, everyone go pick their book up.
November 4th, yeah.
November.
Right, there are essays in the back that kind of talk about, politics and race and religion. So,
it's a fun book. It's really good. I highly recommend it.
While we have a minute, Fortune Wesson also asked, is there a script for the comic anywhere available? And you know what, guys? I think there should be. Your scripts are terrific. Is there anywhere you could find the script? Perhaps maybe on your websites you could actually post the script.
Yeah, I have never really thought about that, but yeah, they could probably do that.
We may try to do something in the next edition, some kind of script to compare, script to layouts or something.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. since I have a moment, I just wanted to show off some of the beautiful design work in the back of Volume 2. We've got Sophie Dodgson giving a little bit of commentary along with showing her thumbnails, which is designed by someone who I believe is going to be a famous designer one day. I don't believe she gave herself any credit, but the person who designed the back matter, Sanford.
I think her name might be Shelley Bond, I think.
I'll look into that. I can't. I'm not 100% sure. Sanford, when this came over, when you showed us what your thumbnail looked like, I knew it. I couldn't believe my eyes. It's magnificent.
The Scrabble that turned into, yeah. It's very.
I've talked to 3 people already, and they have been blown away at just how much movement and what flow is in that original sketch to go from that to the ink. To me, that's just as beautiful in terms of art as the final, which again, and again, I love seeing it colored, but seeing it in black and white, just wow. I'm breathless.
Thank you. I'm breathless as well.
Well, good.
I'm speechless.
Speechless, breathless.
I'm trying to. I'm surprised we haven't been cut off, but